We are in the days of Sukkot, in between October 7th and Simchat Torah, that treacherous day that we knew from a year ago, when there was a tremendous massacre that happened over here in Eretz Israel in the south. The man behind those scenes, of course, Sinwar, otherwise known as the Butcher, also in Hebrew and also in English, that's how he's referred to, is the man who is responsible for on that day, thousands of deaths. He was the engineer behind all of it. He designed it, he planned it, he was the one who initiated it. He is a man of absolute cruelty, doesn't know the meaning of what we call rachmanut, of having any compassion. It's not in his lexicon. If you look into everything in his past, that was just the epics of his career. But he was a man that from the time that he was led out about 16 years ago in the Gilad Shalit exchange, he was busy from day one trying to execute plans, everything he could do to get his hands on Jewish blood. Every little thing he can do. All terrorist attack, or the majority of terrorist attack, had his hands, his fingerprints on top of it. All the missiles that were flying on a consistent basis, war after war. We didn't go 1 year here came out without another war and another war that was happening all the time. This was the man who was behind it. He was the man who was always initiating, encouraging all the other countries, including Hezbollah and the Teimanim, and of course Iran, who was behind him, to go ahead and try to execute as much as they can against Israeli blood, against to be able to do. He said he will not rest until Israel is turned back into, it becomes part of Arab territory. Well, guess what? The man is resting. Well, he's not really resting, and he's busy in his kafakela flying all over the place from here till tomorrow. But Baruch Hashem, Ashreinu Matov Chalkeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of him on this day of Sukkot, which we want to explain why it happened during this time period. But not before I mention that there's not too many people that were known, and like I said, notorious for their cruelty since the Nazi era, as this man. This man had no pity, and guess what? Not only for Jews, but even for Palestinians, even for Arabs. He could care less about anybody except himself. And I'll tell you a crazy story just to bring it out. He was known for always accusing many other fellow Hamas people or other leaders or people around him for being on the Zionistic side, for spying, for being some type of meragel, some type of clandestine person who was hiding from the Mossad and giving them the information, because we all know, Israelis know how to get the right information at the right time. And he would be ruthless in how he would make sure that they would admit their faults, even though they themselves probably never did it. He would accuse people with absolutely no type of proof whatsoever, just based on a whim or based on some type of butterflies in his stomach. Ad Kedei Kach, there was a person that he said, I know your brother is spying for the Zionists. I know they're spying for the Zionists, and I want him to admit it. I want everybody to hear that he admits it. They went to the person, he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm an avid Hamas member. I'm here, I'm behind you, I'm not doing any cheating. Where would you get this information from? They made a burial plot in the ground, and they tied him up and they lied him down in the burial plot. And they said, admit that you are on the Zionist side. And he screamed and ravaged and swore that it's not me. And every time he said, no, it's not me, they threw another hunk of dirt on top of him, They said, admit it, until he was actually buried alive. They didn't actually kill him. They left him there buried underneath the ground until he died from that situation. This is the person that we were talking about, and this is the reason why the Simchas Rishayim, we have a tremendous simcha Be'avid Rishayim, when the Rishayim are gone. And this was, we spoke about Nasrallah, but this person also took the cake. He was much worse than him in his cruelty, just had less means than Nasrallah. Nasrallah had much more means to what he had to do. This is a person who was hated mi bifnim u mi b'chutz, from outside and in. Of course, we hated his guts, but also within, they also realized the tremendous trouble and cause and damage that he has done also for them from within. Now, the main nakuda I want to mention here is a very important one over here, and that is, you don't know how many lives this man has. They used a tremendous amount of undercover FBI type of material in order to know where he was located over and over again. They bombed and rebombed every single area which they assumed and thought he would be there. And a lot of times they were right, but they always just missed him. You have no idea how many times you heard about the just misses. They were almost there. He was just here not long ago. They just missed. Those 6 hostages, lo aleinu, that they were killed, he was there not long ago. He was the one that gave the orders to kill all 6 of them. Those were the 6 hostages that were surrounding him because he knew they were very important, and he's the one who told them. He's the one who gave the orders to kill them at point blank. Al Kopanim, that's it. He was a person who was always on the run. And surprise, surprise, incredible that this man who was able to sustain himself in a countless amount of times, you know how they killed him? Ki'ilu, by accident. This was a standard, typical run-of-the-mill run. Every day they killed tens, if not hundreds, of these terrorists, or these what they call mechablim, that are running around here. And you know, there's hand-to-hand combat going on there. And day by day, they're falling by the wayside. This was a standard run. There were 3 terrorists that were running for a building, and they were able to pick off one. One got into the building, and they were able to get into him, and they got rid of him. They were able to blow him up and get rid of him. They went in just to be able. They always check the identity of who they killed after they do, and they couldn't believe it. There was the man himself, the evil Rasha Gomor, that was there lying down on the ground. He had a strong siman, a strong sign to know it was him. It was his ugly, broken, and despicable teeth. That was the sign. They picked it up in order to be able to reveal that this is the man. Of course, they checked the DNA and the hand fingerprints, make sure it's really him. And Baruch Hashem, we were able to get rid of him during this dreadful day that we are celebrating here at Kebiyachol, a year from that day that happened a year ago. What's the message? The message is clear, and it should be clear to everyone. We have a tremendous amount of karta tov. We have appreciation for our soldiers, our trusty messengers, to be able to take care of what needs to be done. But often and too often, we begin to start saying, wow, look at the intelligence. Look how impressive. Look how we're able to get this person, that person. All the intelligence in the world did not help. Over here, and especially in this day, which I want to mention, on Sukkot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was pointing out something. He was coming to say, I'm going to pick when and where and how it happens. Whenever it happens, it comes through me. Of course, you have to use like I said, you have to have good technology, you have to have the right Shabak, the right Secret Service people to be able to figure out how to do things. But in the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that I am the Ktovet. I'm the one who makes the address here. I'm the one who's going to make it. And it was exactly during the time where we're singing, Hoshana, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, save us, Hoshana. Atzila, where we're singing in Hallel, and we're singing about HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be Matzilas. And we're singing about the Hoshanas of the Lulavim, where we're sticking them up and saying that this is going to be the time of our rescue, and Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent a message to be able to show the only one that's going to be able to send this message to be able to take us out of this situation is only Him. He's the only one. You know, it's no coincidence that during this time period we read about Gog Umagog. During the Haftarah that we read today on Yom Tov, for us, for you, it's Yom Tov Sheni in America, but over here it's Yom Tov Sheni and Yom Tov Rishon. We all read about Gog Magog in the Parsha of Zechariah, and then on Shabbat also, again, the theme continues in the whole idea of the Gog Magog. It talks about the discussion of Gog Magog, which of course is the Milchama, the war that will precede the coming of the Messiah, of the coming of the Mashiach. Sheyavo b'mirabi Amenu, Amen. And we have a Kabbalah from Rav Hai Gaon that when this war will be completed, when it will win, it will happen during the month of Tishrei, in the Chag of Sukkot, and that's one of the reasons why we read. Says Rav Hirsch, the meaning of Gog Magog, Gog is from Lashon Gag, a roof, because we feel very secure when we have a roof and doors and 6 locks in front on our doors. We feel very secure. Nothing can hurt us. We can cry and scream and say, never again. We are safe. Nothing will ever hurt us. Gag. When the Gag's on top of us, we're good to go. We're safe. We feel stable. We feel that we don't need any outside sources to be able to save us from any difficult situations. I have a roof on top of my head. I'm in a mamad room. I'm in a secure room. I'm going to be okay. And here we have reading on Sukkot, this Yisod of Gog Magog. Instead of the Gag, we go out into a schach, some weak, unstable covering of foliage, which is on top of our Sukkah, which is there, which can barely hold any type of, hopefully it keeps up for those 7 days, but it's something that doesn't last very often. very much. When I was first putting back my Sukkah together a decade or so ago, we were putting up a new design, the Sukkah, and it fell and it collapsed after we finished. The whole thing collapsed to the ground. And my neighbor, I had a couple kids, and my neighbors started singing. They started, Harachamanu Yakim Lanu. It's Sukkah's David. No, fellas, my name is David. So they were saying that Bezrat Hashem, David's Sukkah should get back up again. We know that the Sukkah is something unstable. It's insecure. It doesn't last more than a long time. It doesn't last very long. And that's the difference between the battle between the Gag, the Kochi V'Otzim Yodi, the power that I am secure, I'm okay, the illusion that we think that I don't need any outside sources to protect us until we put up a Sukkah. And we go, you know what? Maybe I really am not independently safe. Maybe I really need a protection device from outside of us. And that's the time when we celebrate this idea of Sukkah, to understand that our security is a more spiritual security. It's something that is only above. And in Stafka, this occurred during the time when they received permission to build the second Beit HaMikdash, and then they were stopped by King Darius. She said that to stop because all the Goyim were against. There was anti-Semitism back then, just like now. They said, stop, enough. We don't let you build. And Zechariah gave a nevuah from Hashem, said, keep building, don't worry about the Goyim, and do what you need to do. You do what Ratzon Hashem is to do, you do what you need to do, and don't worry about the position of the Goyim. And he says that's also what's going to be in the time of Gog Magog. There's going to be a war against us, and people are going to be all against us. But even against all odds, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, continue, and do what you need to do, fight what you need to fight in order to continue. Does this sound a little bit recognizable? Do you hear these words? When all the Goyim are telling us to stop, enough, no more, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu comes, and he says, continue. Don't worry. You have to do what's right, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, what's right, not left. You have to do what's right to make sure that Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is behind you. As long as you know that Hashem is behind us, and yes, we've suffered a tremendous amount of casualties. Even on that same day, we've had 5 tremendous and big, a couple of people who are chashuv people. I mean, all of them are chashuv, but some people who are known that actually fell in the crowd. They fell in combat, unfortunately, during that time period. And here we are with mixed passions and mixed emotions at the time that we have such simcha, and there was big celebrations here in Eretz Israel. You should know, people were singing about Haman Talui ala Etz, and people were so happy about the situation. But at the same time, yes, we still are suffering our casualties, but at least we know that we are in a stepping stone. The Balaturim writes this at the end of Parshas Chayei Al Penei Kol Achiv Nafal. What does it mean that he fell? Ve'ele Toldot Yitzchak. And right after that it says Eile Toldot Yitzchak. Says the words of the Balaturim. Lomar, in order to tell us, Keshe Yipol Yishmael, because that pasuk was talking about Yishmael. When Yishmael falls be'acharite yamim, in the end of days, Yitzmach ben David Shumi Toldot Yitzchak. That we can already see the beginning of the signs that Yitzchak, that the Toldot of Yitzchak and his generations, David and Mashiach ben David, are going to be the ones to go ahead and take over. As the Radak writes in Yechezkel, Kol Gog Magog, the whole meaning of the fight between Gog and Magog, She'anoda l'kol amim v'ni kadesh bechem, in order that I'll have a certain kedusha amongst you. The whole idea of the Gog and Magog is that there should be a kiddush Hashem. In other words, on purpose during Sukkot, it happened specifically in this way, that he got killed. And I'm telling you, even the generals who never say a word about Hashem, and still don't worry, they still didn't say a word about Hashem, but they couldn't help and say, we killed him by accident. We don't know how. It happened by this. He said, you were nechushim, you guys were good, I'm so proud of you. And we are proud of them. It's fantastic. But all the time they said, we are very intelligent, our intelligence is so fantastic, and we were very, we gave the okay, and we said to go ahead and do it. Everything was always around us. Over here they said, our hands were completely tied. This has nothing to do with us. They did speak out. We tried tens of times to kill this guy. And we almost, and we kept missing. And this time we didn't even try, and we hit him. What's the next step? I was waiting. No. And therefore what? And therefore we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind us. He's there on this day of Sukkot to remind us of the battle of Gog and Magog. No more Gag. We're out in the Sukkah. We're out in order to make us realize what it's all about. And that's why this Chag, this I'm finishing, is the Chag that has to do about the differentiation between us and the nations. And the Nitzachon that we have, because like I said, during the time of Oshanot is when this all happened. What do we do when we're swinging those lulav? You know what the Midrash in Parshat Emor says? That it's a semel. We wave the lulav to show that we were victorious. We're waving a weapon. It's kebiyachol, a weapon. It's like a rifle. If you want to see it as a javelin, but and you can see it as a rifle. And it says, like two people went into a din. They went into a beit din. Nobody knows who won until the one that was victorious comes out with his weapon, waving the flag of nitzachon. And that's what we do. We're the ones waving the flag and not the goyim. We're the ones who are going out and waving our lulavim in order to show that we were victorious. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's on our side. He's protecting us. And then everybody knows. That's what the Midrash says. That's why specifically during this mitzvah, it says right next to the mitzvah of shaking the lulav, is samachtem lifnei Hashem lokechem. What does the simcha have to do with waving a lulav? You wave a lulav, it's nice, it's a mitzvah. I also blow a shofar, I also eat haggadah, I also eat matzah during the haggadah. Why is this samachtem over here? Because it's a sign of nitzachon. We went through a difficult battle. We didn't know who's going to come out on top. We didn't know if Hashem's on our side. Usamachtem lifnei Hashem lokechem. We wave the Hoshana. We wave the Hoshana of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going ahead and waving the nitzachon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has shown to us. The Derech Hashem writes, everyone's going to see you and have fear, and they're going to realize from the Kli of Nitzachon that we're on top of us. And you know why? We all know why. Because the lulav and the etrog, and we know the four minim all together with the aravat and the hadasim, and for all different types of facets of Jews. And we put them all together to show that yes, we're all different colored, but when we all come together, biyachad, nenetzech. Am Yisrael Chai. I spoke in another shir about the meaning of the word am. But am comes when we're all as one ichud together, when we're all together as one being. We're not goyim. Goyim are separate beings that live in the same country. An am is one that is completely interacted between one and the other. That we're completely immersed one to the other, and we completely work together as a whole. That's why we say Am Yisrael Chai. That's the power of the Am to work, and this is the power of our Slacha. This is the sword of our victory, and this is how we are able to be victorious, with those meaning together, of course, through the Torah, and that's why we're coming to Simchat Torah when this dreadful day happened. But this is the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows for us. And that's why during this whole entire Chag we see the 70 parat that are going down and down and down, because it shows the victory of Bnei Yisrael, that we are above the Goyim, that we are Banim L'Hashem Elokeichem. That's why in Shmini Atzeret it's a time that Hashem says it's just me and you. He pushes everybody out. It says just between us and Hashem without any Goyim around. On Simchat Torah it's just us and the Torah, because the Torah is that point of our connection. On Kopanim, the beauty of Sukkot is the idea of Hashkachat Hashem, of the connection to Hashem. Yes, there's no more doors, there's no more roofs around us. We know that we are underneath the realms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's a tremendous simcha, tremendous connection that we have. As the Onig Yom Tov writes, the whole entire idea of Sukkot is the Tzelas Sukkah, is the Hashkacha Prati, to know that I'm together with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ananei HaKavod. And that's how we know that we're so connected. With this I'll finish, but a beautiful idea which I saw from the Mabit in the Sefer Beit Elohim. He says a tremendous yesod. You know, we all know that the Sukkah is keneged the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory. There were three things in the Midbar. There was the man that fell from the sky, Moshe Rabbeinu. There was the bear of Mayim that came from Miriam, the water that came from Miriam. And of course we know the Ananei HaKavod, or the clouds of glory that came from Aaron HaKohen. Why do we have a celebration on the Ananim of the clouds more than the other two? Man is important. Bear, Mayim, important. Hafuch, he says, that goof is the reason why. Because man, we had to have food. You can't live without food. Water, you have to have. You can't live without water. What did we need to have the clouds for? What did they represent? What was the point of the clouds? That it was there to get rid of any scorpions or any bad things. They leveled out mountains for us. It made it nice, comfortable when it was cold and hot. It protected us from the elements. What was the purpose of it? The answer is that's the purpose. There is no purpose. When you have water and food, you have to feed. You don't feel the love. But when you just give something just because, you give a bouquet of flowers, which is meaningless, doesn't have so much to do with it. But when you just give it just because, so suddenly you feel an affection, a connection. That was the biggest sign that showed how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. During the Ananei HaKavod, He gave us the extras. He gave us things that were not requirements. Just to show you're my bubala, you're my bani matem l'Hashem Elokeichem, and I'm begging you for one thing. Just sit in the tzila demnuta, not under a gag, not under the roof, not under the kochi ve'otzi b'yadi, not focusing on myself. Just notice that I'm underneath the emuna of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the tzel of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bask in the or of understanding that we are here and we are living and surrounded by miracles. I had a share not too long ago about the difference between Miracles and wonders. Nisim v'nifla, to just appreciate. You want to make a nifla, something wondrous, into a miracle, take it in, appreciate it, learn for it for the future, and make us realize how great the Kodesh Baruch Hu loves us. B'ezrat Hashem, this Chag shall be a Chag Sameach, and this year shall be a year shall bracha v'atzlacha.